Hey everybody, I'm Sermonarian, and as you know, I host a weekly podcast called the Sermonarian Podcast, but I also wrote this book called Out. I'm the author, Melissa Fondakowski, and as you can see here, I am working on recording the audiobook of Out so that you can listen to it when you're driving, when you're commuting, when you're just sort of sitting at home, kind of wading through the Thanksgiving morass. But as you can imagine, it is a process, and I'm not quite finished yet. So in the meantime, I've recorded a few snippets, and I've put them together with some video footage I took on the actual stairway walks in San Francisco that these excerpts are referring to. So you'll get a sneak peek into both the book and the real life places that the book is referring to. So I hope you enjoy these very San Francisco snippets and go ahead out and get a copy of the book out. It's available on Amazon. You can get it on Kindle. You can get it in a hardcover. You can get it pretty much anywhere books are sold. So go ahead and get a copy. And thank you, of course, for listening, and I hope you enjoy. Chapter 8, Saturnalia. We're on Mars Street now, headed toward the Saturn Street stairs. "Look at that house," Frank says, pointing to the menthol green duplex with black shutters, like a giant mint chocolate chip ice cream cone. He grabs my elbow and guides me up to the top of the Saturn Street stairway. I'm panting, but it takes only a moment for me to catch my breath. We clop down the first few cement stairs before pausing to look at the view. Downtown San Francisco is always a treat. Transamerica, the Bay, Market Street. You can see the Castro's giant rainbow flag in total clarity. I love how plentiful the air is. Unfortunately, the stairs around me are not so pretty. Several of the houses have been razed to their foundations, and a large portion of the stairs is ripped up, covered with blue tarp. The gardens, normally sick with fertility and flowers, are covered in construction dust. It looks barren and unloved, and the dry day seems even hotter up here, the ground blasting heat upward as the sun beats it right back down. "It's envy," Frank says dreamily, then slaps his cigarette pack, flipping out a single smoke. He clamps it between his teeth, lights, and inhales. He's so good at smoking, I'm mesmerized. "It's envy," he says again, exhaling a cloud of blue-tinged poison. "What's envy, Frank?" I respond, and his name feels strange coming off my tongue. Tender, loving, as if I'd never really addressed him before. It suddenly occurs to me that Frank is a real person with a story far deeper and wider than the one in the books. "What?" I ask, but he doesn't answer, and we begin to descend. He's a stranger to me. I stare at the ground, counting as I go, watching to make sure I don't step on anything gross. But these stairs aren't dirty, just disappointing. "Whoa!" Frank says, and I look up from the drab concrete to see a man step out from behind a blind turn below us. An enormous bird is perched on his thickly gloved arm. "Good morning," the man says. "Hi," I say, then look toward Frank, who has disappeared. I panic at the thought of Frank not being real, at the thought of others not seeing Frank, yet seeing me talking to Frank. Embarrassed, I step aside to make space for the man with the giant bird. Remembering that quick movements frighten birds, and not wanting to find a beak in my eye, I stand as still as humanly possible as they pass. It's not uncommon in San Francisco to see people walking around with birds on their shoulders. It's just usually they're cockatoos or parrots, not patient, silent raptors. "Oh no," the man says coolly. "She can't see you." I look at him quizzically. "She won't move. Don't be scared." "What kind is it?" I ask. "Shira here is a Harris hawk," he says, turning his head to admire her significant length. I follow his eyes and notice the soft chocolate feathers under the belly, then the downy amber tufts covering the uppermost parts of the feet. And then I really see the feet. Yellow and wrinkled, dark brown talons curved from the tips like Neolithic stone tools, gently gripping the man's leathered arm. How many times have I watched a hawk tear into a squirrel with its hooked beak, talons pressed effortlessly into the prey's body to keep it still. They always start with the head, the most delicious part. It's hard to describe Shira's masterly grip on the man's arm. It's kind of tender. True power, I think, is being able to choose not to injure others despite knowing that you can. I gently raise a finger to point to the shiny leather helmet affixed to the bird's head, which looks like something out of a steampunk World's Fair. "She can't see you at all with this on," he says. "This is how we train them. They used to seal them by sewing their eyes shut with linen thread, but we don't do that anymore. We just hood them now. It's safer and more humane." I nod. The bird is so still it looks stuffed. They judge the world through their sight, he continues. So when you take it away, he pauses, thinking how he wants to say this next part. They don't become submissive exactly. They just stop reacting to their preconceived ideas of things. I nod. It makes them, again a long thoughtful pause, it makes them more willing. Willing to do what? To accept that human beings aren't the enemy, he says, lifting his sagging arm a bit. After a while, I imagine, the bird must become quite a heavy load. I nod and he continues. We also use them for really good purposes, like abatement here in the city. I look at him, unable to hide my confusion. Rodent control, he says, and I nod. I'm eager to move on with my day. Well, have a nice day, he says, picking up on my cue, and continues slowly past me up the stairs. You too, I say, and head down around the bend. As soon as I make the turn, Frank reappears. Where did you go? You know you make me feel crazy when you do that. Frank ignores me. Intense. A little scary, maybe. I mean, training all the wild out of a bird like that. You don't think these birds have been made a little freer by being blinded? What you don't see can't hurt you? Not exactly. Frank looks down the remaining stairs to the sidewalk below. Come, he says, taking my hand, and we move together down the rest of the flight.